everybody! I'm here today to tell you about 8 tips for doing the driving test in a manual car. If you are going to be doing your driving test in a manual car, then this is the video for you, because I'll be going over 8 specific and simple tips that will help you hopefully pass your driving test in the manual car and get your license. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Tip number 1 is know how to drive manual smoothly. Now, I know that this might seem obvious, but so many people do their test in a manual car and they don't know how to drive manual smoothly, so they're like making the driving test examiner go like this as they're driving, and all they're thinking is, wow, points lost, points lost, points lost. So just practice driving manual smoothly, okay? It's very important. Tip number 2 is have experience with that specific car. You want to have some experience with that exact car. Literally, the car that you will be using for the driving test, you want experience with that exact car. Not a car like it, that exact car. Simply because the clutch is going to be very specific, and the biting point and the release point will be very specific. The brakes will be specific. All of the quirks about maybe the gear selector, like, you know, it grinds into third if you don't push the clutch down all the way. One of my previous cars did that. All of those things are going to be specific to that car. So have experience with that specific car. Tip number 3 is know when to use the emergency brake. Now, don't forget, in an automatic car, there's a park, right? There's a parking gear. But in a manual car, there's no parking gear. So you got to use the emergency brake effectively and know when to use it and know how to use it. So study precisely when do you have to engage the emergency brake. And then also, you know, how to actually engage it and when to disengage it. Like, know everything about the emergency brake, because in a manual car, it's extremely, extremely important, okay? Tip number 4 is choose the right gear, okay? So you want to make sure that you're driving in the right gear. Choose the specific gear, whether you want more acceleration or lower revs, or a smoother drive. You got to choose the right gear. I mean, in certain speeds, you can be in second or third, and in other speeds, you can be in third or fourth, right? You got to choose the right gear to work for you, and the only way to do this is practice, right? So just to recap, since we're about halfway through, 1 is know how to drive manual smoothly. 2, have experience with that specific car. 3, know when to use the emergency brake and how to use it, because there's no parking gear. 4, choose the right gear. Tip number 5, moving forward, is don't stall, or try not to stall. Listen, it's okay if you stall once for the most part, or twice for the most part, but it can't be a habit, okay? And like I said, practice makes perfect. The best way to not stall a car is to practice. If you look at an experienced manual driver, they will stall once every 6 months, if even that, compared to a beginner manual driver who will stall once every 6 minutes. So you just have to understand that if you keep stalling, keep practicing before you do your test and figure out when you're stalling, if there's a common theme, and try to fix it. Tip number 6 is come to complete stop before going from forward gear to reverse gear. So you want to come to complete stop before you go from a forward gear to a reverse gear, or vice versa. Now, the reason that people don't do this is simply because in an automatic car, so many people go like from reverse to drive while they're still rolling. And it's very unsafe, and it can damage, I mean, it's unsafe for the car. It can damage the transmission. And the same thing goes with the manual car. You want to come to complete stop before you go from reverse to drive, or reverse to first, or from first to reverse. You really want to make sure you're stopping. It's better for the car, and if you don't do it, you're probably going to lose points. And even if you don't lose points, the driving test examiner is going to look at it with a negative light. Tip number 7 is push the clutch in fully, okay? Push it in all the way. I cannot emphasize this enough. So many people get used to just barely pressing the clutch in, right? And because, you know, they can switch gears smoothly without pushing it in. And then what happens is on the test, they're used to it, but they mess up one time. So all of a sudden they grind gears. And that doesn't look good, nor does it sound good, nor does it feel good if it's the examiner's car or something like that, right? They don't want you to grind gears in their car. So with that being said, just always push the clutch in fully. I know it's more work, it's more stress on your leg, but just do it. It's just do it for the driving test. You don't have to do it every day of your life, but just do it for the driving test, okay? Last but not least is tip number 8, which is try not to coast in neutral or coast with the clutch in. Basically, you should only be pushing the clutch in to go to move that gear selector, right? You shouldn't be pushing the clutch in and holding it in while in first gear for long. Basically, you want to make sure that you're not going to coast in neutral and you're not going to coast with the clutch in. Don't do that. It's very simple. The clutch has a specific purpose, neutral has a specific purpose, and it's not to coast in neutral. And the clutch is not to coast with the clutch in. So that's not the purpose of it. I know you might do it regularly when you're driving, but for the purposes of the driving test, don't do it. Not a massive deal if you do it on a regular basis while you're driving and you have your license. It's not like unsafe. It's not going to do much damage. It's bad practice. So just don't do it for the driving test. And that's basically it. Those are 8 tips for doing the driving test in a manual car. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great car and driving videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.